Welcome to the Women Who Change the World podcast, the place where everyday women world changers share their stories to inspire, challenge, and equip you to change your world. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Women Who Change the World. I am your host, Samantha, and I am here with my friend Sania, and we're going to talk about parenting. We are going to talk about all things parenting, the hard, the easy, the not so hard, and the extremely hard, because parenting is hard. How are you this morning, Sania?
I am doing good. I'm elated to be here. Thanks for having me.
You can't see it, but she has bright, sunny yellow all around her. I love it. It's so pretty. It's so pretty. So tell my audience about your story.
Hi, everyone. I am Sania Dookie. I am a native of the island of Jamaica. Let me be biased and say it's the best island in the Caribbean. I am now a citizen of Canada with my husband here, and we have two beautiful children. And I do have a background in mental health therapy. I'm a psychotherapist in our private practice. And I'm also a Christian parenting coach in our organization called Dookie Institute. My story is really how I came about doing what I do as a parenting coach. And I just wanted to share this with everyone out there and somehow instill a sense of hope and healing and encouragement that it doesn't matter where you started from in your journey, you do have the power by the power of God to change things. And it is possible. So I just wanted to share here my story of my parenting, really my parenting journey. I grew up in a society where our parenting philosophy is very different. And that really tainted the way I saw parenting. In fact, before I became a parent, I had some ideas of how I was going to be an effective parent. No, this is how we do it. This is a philosophy of how our society see parenting. If you don't spank, then you're spoiling your child. If you don't speak loudly and assert yourself loudly to your child, then you are spoiling your child. And because of that, that is really what I grew up seeing. I grew up seeing parents teaching children under that lens, that you beat your children to teach them a lesson. And I was a good kid. I ensured that I was a good kid because I didn't want to get the same treatment. In fact, when I did get spanking, I was the angry kid. I was the kid who would like stand. I would take it and then I'll be in your face and I'll be like, are you done? So for me, it didn't even work for me. It did not even work for me. What worked for me was when my parents would talk to me. They would look in my face and they'd say, Sania, hey, you know, what did you do? Like, that's wrong. And you would get me bawling. I would start bawling. And that's when you get me to melt. And but I grew up seeing beating, and because of that, you know, you love someone, but you see them getting hurt. And the society is saying what is being done right now is justified and it's good. And because of that, it caused me to become emotionally hard or shut down, pretty much. And because as a child and you're growing up seeing these things around you, that is going to be your way of dealing with it. You're going to emotionally shut down because on one side you're told, hey, this is okay. And on the other side, you're seeing, oh my gosh, this is hurting. And I'm having compassion and empathy, but my empathy is justified that it's okay. So I found that eventually emotionally I would shut down and detach myself. And pretty much, yeah, that's how I realized later on in life, actually didn't realize that that was the case until I started doing this work. And doing a lot of self-reflection and doing a lot of reading about the impact that this has had on other people as well. And now I'm doing my doctoral research, and there are times when I'm reading and tears start coming to my eyes because I realize, oh my gosh, like I experienced something like this. Wow, this is the reason why, I was a certain way, and I would have to heal from that. And when I had my children, I decided I don't want the same thing to happen. I don't want, and I see the implications of the or discipline style. I don't want the same thing to happen to my children. Because at the time I became as a mental health therapist, I started studying the brain, and I started working with children and youth and doing more reading and research and just understanding the body of how God designed us and what He really wants for us. And I realized how important it is based on our experiences. Our brain develops based on our experiences. And it was from that moment on, I realized I want to help my children to have a good experience developing a healthy brain. And I became intentional about my approach of parenting. And just, starting to find different ways of supporting them without inflicting hurt in order to get them to learn. And that in itself became a healing journey for me. It became a healing journey for me. It caused me to really study Jesus more, because we know many people have different beliefs from the Bible about discipline as well. And that I'm a Bible believing person, and I wanted the scriptures to actually be a place where I get my wisdom as well. And I started studying Jesus. I said, who better to model than Jesus himself? And I started to study Jesus and how he related to his people, how he related to disciples, and why people who were ostracized, who were wrongdoers, gravitated to him, right? They weren't shamed, guilted, and felt outcasted. In fact, they saw where they were at, they saw their wrong and repented and moved forward in Jesus Christ. And, it got me thinking, how can I do that for my children? How can I model the way Jesus did that? And that paired with my interpersonal neurobiological understanding of the human body interaction and how we support our children to develop healthy attachment and healthy brain and prevent mental health disorders later on in life really is what caused me to start to do what I do, to bring hope to parents and to let parents know that there are different ways. There are ways we can nurture and support our children, still stand our ground as parents, but at the same time doing it in a way where it speaks to the child's heart, it parents the child's heart, instead of just behaviorally altering our children. And so that's what I started to do in my work as a mental health therapist and as a parenting coach. That's what I've been doing. And in the past 2 years, really, I've answered the call to really reach out to the Christian community to support Christian parents in this way, and to help point parents to Christ, because a lot of times we take on everything and we think that we are in this alone, and we need to be in control, and we need to get this perfectly. So it's something I've been encouraging Christian parents to say, hey, you're not in this alone. God is here with you. Just look at him, just behold him, become changed in him, and then and also learn these functional ways in which he has provided for us to be able to support our children. And in the past 2 years, that's what we have been doing. That's what I've been doing. And just really happy that God has given me the opportunity to be able to do this. It's not popular among everyone. A lot of people disagree still, but with some aspects of what I encourage or do not encourage, but that's okay. That's okay. So that's just a little bit of my story as it relates to just my parenting journey, my personhood as a parent, and my healing process, and so forth.
I have some questions for you.
Yes,
When
ma'am.
you've grown up in an abusive environment, where you yourself were abused, not you as in general, not you personally, where a parent, a person who was abused and they become a parent, that's the only form of discipline they know. They don't know anything else. And so in the heat of the moment, they revert to what they were raised in. How do they find a healthy way to discipline and correct their kids?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So Samantha, you've jumped right into it. You that's the issue. That's the issue because what I found is even when we know the strategies,
Mm-hmm.
because I can tell parents, I say, do this, do this, do this, and they'll do it, right? But
Mm-hmm.
eventually it doesn't work anymore because we have to deal with an internal issue, something that we experienced and we haven't healed from. And when our children are being boisterous or being defiant or making and hollering, making noise and hollering, that is a trigger for us because we were raised that you need to shut up. Don't don't show emotions, right? And when we see our children doing that, we get triggered, not necessarily because of the fact that they're doing it, but because internally our body remembers what we were told,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the first step, the first thing I'd say for parents is self-awareness, is to really become aware of when you are reacting or responding to your children, what is the true source of that? What is the true source of that? It's self-awareness. That's the first thing I'd say. Become self-aware in your interaction, your day-to-day interaction with your children, because through that, you'll recognize that there is space for healing. There needs to be some form of healing. I'll tell you, I'm a mental health therapist and I know about all these things and all that stuff. But I found at one point, I found that, when my children did something undesirable, I responded really well because my knowledge, I know what to do. But in my heart, I'd be sad and frustrated, and that would be, I would sit with that. And then when they come around, my kids, when they would come around and try to do something and laugh, make me laugh, my face would still be shut down. My emotions would still be shut down. And I thought to myself, why is this the case? Because I noticed that this was a trend. And I said, what what's going on here? And then that's when I realized that my defense mechanism was to shut down. Whenever something undesirable happened, my defense mechanism was to shut down, to not show emotions or anything. And that still carried over and I would stay with that emotion and almost put up a wall to protect myself. So what I realized was that I was putting myself into a protective mode because emotionally I felt uncomfortable. And when I put up that wall, it was hard for me to reconnect and to melt, really, to reconnect to what experience my children were introducing me to. And that is something that, years after I recognized, as they got older and they're getting all frisky and creative, right? When they're younger, it's kind of hard to see some things, but when they started to do that, I said, wow, that's what I realized, that was an internal thing in me that I did not get to heal from it. And it wasn't until when I became aware of it
Mm-hmm.
and realized what was going on and kind of freed myself from it. Just the knowledge, just the saying it alone, it's freedom. That's when I said, okay, be free. Just, unclench yourself from this emotional
Mm-hmm.
wall that you usually have here. Just be free and enjoy and engage in your children. And this reminds me of unconditional. It's not like I didn't forgive my children, but it's just a feeling, right? So this reminds me of unconditional love and the forgiveness, the level of forgiveness that Christ has, is that even our children, we also as parents, we need to be doing that too. We need to be forgiving towards our children. Doesn't matter how young they are. We feel that, oh, because they're young, they shouldn't have impacted us to that extent. But it did bring emotions in us. It does, because we're humans, right?
Right.
And we need to be able to get past that as well, to be forgiving to our children, even if we don't have to say they didn't ask us to forgive, but in our heart we need to forgive, and that's how we move on. We don't hold resentment, and when we don't hold resentment, we have more clarity in supporting and interacting with our children. We have a better perspective as to what's going on with them, and how we, as the wiser person and the person placed in authority, how we can support them in a healthy and respectful way, and nurturing and empowering way. So yeah, my first step would be practice self-awareness. What it is that you're there's an acronym that I can introduce real quick. It's called SIFT, right? So when you realize you're experiencing strong reaction or emotions or just feelings from what is going on there, you want to take a deep breath. Breathe a word of prayer and say, God, okay, something's going on here. Show me. And then you want to evaluate, you want to reflect. Okay, what are the sensations that are happening in my body? That's S. What are the sensations that are happening in my body, and where am I feeling it? For me, it's mostly in my chest and my stomach, right? Where am I feeling it? What are the images that are going in my mind? What is this reminding me of? Is there anything flooding in me? Like, am I feeling a sense of hopelessness? Like I'm helpless. Like I'm trying to support my child. They're being defiant, so I feel helpless. Where is this helplessness coming from? Does this remind me of something that I've experienced in the past, or something that I was told, or some ideas or ideologies or belief system that I have, things like that. What are my feelings about this? What type of emotions am I having about this situation right now? Is this emotion really towards my child, or is something going on for me that I need to become aware of? Am I feeling despondent, or is that resentment I'm feeling towards my child really despondence that I'm feeling about myself and my capability as a parent, right? And then T is, what are my thoughts? What are my thoughts? Am I thinking if I don't get control of the situation right now, then that says that I'm not a good parent. And so I need to get a grip on this situation right now. And because of that, I get rigid and I get over controlling and irrational and so forth in my response to my child. So that's just the acronym of SIFT that encourage parents start using. Sensations, images, your feelings, and your thoughts. And once you become aware of that, then it helps. It really helps you to know when you're responding to your child, you're responding in more clarity.
That is interesting, because it's something that I found myself doing without knowing that I was doing it. There was a time where I would tell myself, I hate my life. I hate my life. I hate my life. And a friend of mine gave me something, told me that, okay, that's a trigger for you. That's a trip. You use it as a trip up. Why do I hate my life right now? What is going on that's causing me to hate my life right now? And so I would pull back, think about what's going on. Why do I feel this way? And then what can I do about it?
Yes.
And maybe it's not something I can do about it at this exact second, but it's something that I can do about it to help that. Something I've found when people who were abused as children, when they grow up, they either become two different ways. What I've seen, there's the extreme of they are abusers themselves, or they're extremely hands-off, and their children have no discipline, no self-control, no nothing. Now, you and I had talked beforehand, because we're both part of the John Maxwell team, about the first law of leadership, which is the law of the lid.
Yes.
And the law of the lid is in business wise, is that you're not going to hire anybody who is ahead of you in personal growth. They're all going to be beneath you. This is great for if you're in direct sales. The more you grow, the better a team you develop. But when I saw this, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is about parenting. Because my kids cannot grow beyond where I am unless they get out from underneath of me. So I need to grow. So how do we find the middle where we're not abusing our kids, but we're not letting our children run around and be bullies and be self-indulgent? And I'm sure it's tied into there to that law of the lid that I wanted us to kind of get into. So I have my ideas. I'm not a doctor. I don't even play one on TV, but you're working towards it. So help us work through this. How do we find that middle? How do we raise our lid?
Yeah. So for sure, we definitely need to raise that lid, and that's when you have a higher impact on your child. I'm just passionate about how John Maxwell talks about leadership, and I would encourage any parents to read his leadership books, because it gives us a very good idea of how we can lead our children, because our children need it. The reality is that children need leadership. I have met young adults who say, I right now, I feel mad at my parents because they provided no leadership. And now I have to be catching up with whatever they didn't teach me. Okay? So, I want parents out there to know that your child needs you. They need your leadership. So don't falter in that area and give up on that area in the name of, I don't want to get my child mad, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is learning how to influence. And for those who are interested in reading, I would recommend also to read John Maxwell's book, Becoming a Person of Influence. It's really about how to become an influential person. And you can see a parallel with how you can become a person of influence in your child's life. Really, it's understanding, and John Maxwell talks so much about that, is really connecting with your children, okay? And getting into their world, the reason I'm pointing this out is generally we are only in our world, and we're only focused on our role. I got to do this. I got to make sure that I train my child the way they should go, so when they're old, they're not depart from it. And then we come up with our own ideas, our images of what that should look like. Not taking into consideration that the child that you are trying to do this with is a person, is a human being who is also blessed with their own brain, their own personality, and their own response and reaction toward things that are happening around them. So that is going to affect the plan or the image that you have in your head. That is an area that you cannot control, right? And once we start realizing that, then we become more relaxed, because the child's not doing what we say we have in our mind that they should do. So we feel a lack of control, but we know, we think in our mind that we need to have control. But the reality is that we need to get into our child's world, understand them, get to their level. And that's what Jesus did. He reached people where they were at. That's what he did. He reached people where they were at, got to understand their needs, got to see where they were coming from, intervene. He helped them where they were at. He didn't say, okay, you need to love Jesus and love God and you'll be saved. No, he healed them, and then he said, go and sin no more. He restored them first, and then he directed them to what he would like them. In the process of intervention, Jesus has formulated a connection with those people. Those people don't see him as one of those religious leaders who are just telling me what to do, but they don't really care about me, or have the time of day to stop and see how my life is. They saw Jesus as someone who stopped, really connected with them where they were at, saw where they were struggling, showed compassion on them, unconditional love and positive regard unto them, forgave them, and then redirected them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? To say, hey, this is what you need to do. This is the path you need to walk in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same model that we as parents we need to do, is we need to connect with our children, understand what's going on into their world, because a lot of times too, and it's really, it's so much to say in so little time. Sometimes our children's behaviors are not because they want to be defined either. Guys, sometimes it's because your child is tired. Sometimes it's because they're hungry. Sometimes it's because emotionally something is bothering them. They're anxious about something. They're stressed about something. They're having some doubt about their schoolwork. They're feeling low confidence about their capability to do something, and their way of dealing with it shows aggression, irritability, defiance, and like the attitude of, I'm not going to do this no matter what you tell me to do. I'm not going to do it, or tantrum and meltdown, and things like those. Guys, sometimes that's what it is. And once you connect with them on that level, then that's when it opens you up to really what's going on in your child's world. And when you understand, then you know how to appropriately respond, right? And you will know the root cause of things. The other issue is that the other thing in leading your child or supporting your child is that we need to be heart focused and not behavior focused. Okay. Now, we as parents generally, we see the bad behavior, we want to change it right away. We want, like, okay, we need to snip it in the bud and all that stuff. And we enforce punishment in order to address that behavior. I'll tell you, the punishment works temporarily.
Right.
Temporarily, right? But because we didn't connect with where the child's heart was at, the child did not learn the lesson. Their heart did not connect with what you are telling them to do. And so they're going to go do it again. They're absolutely going to do it again. And they keep getting punishment. And the more they get punishment, but they're really not connecting with the lesson from a heart perspective, then they start feeling, I'm a no good person. I can never do anything right. That's all I do is get punishment. And they start internalizing. And then some kids, they will reach a point of, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make sense. I try. I'm not even going to try anymore. And that's where the attitude of, I don't know, they don't even try to behave or try to do the right thing, because we're missing the mark. We're focusing on the wrong thing. Even if they do start to do the right thing behaviorally, it's just behavior, right? If it's not coming from the heart of the person, the behavior, then it dies away, it gets tired, right? But the heart is where, when you connect with the child's heart, they start to show initiative. When they do make the decision to do the wrong thing, from their heart, they will know it is wrong, right? And when they are convicted, they will, from a heart perspective, they will mean it. When they go on the streets, we find that these children, it's harder for them to succumb to peer pressure because they're grounded in their core values, in their heart. It's not because they fear punishment, but they know in their heart, because of what their parents taught them, that that's not the way to go, right? The other thing too for parents is to recognize that our children are going to make mistakes, number one, and they are also going to make the wrong decisions, because
they're people.
They're people. That's it. In reality, they're people. And it's for us to work our way around that and teach our children accountability. And this is the part where I know a lot of parents are listening for us. Okay, so at what point do I show my child that they are accountable
Mm-hmm.
for their actions? We have different consequences, right? We
Right.
have natural consequences.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we don't want to place our children in a unhealthy position. If they're going down a road and you know it's life threatening, we definitely intervene,
Right.
right? But then there are other ways, there are other consequences
Mm-hmm.
that can play out from the decision they made. After you've spoken with them and you say, hey, if this happens, this is what's going to happen. And they still decide to do that thing, then you say, okay, well, I guess you chose the consequence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there are other where you sit, you talk to the child, these are the expectations, you set your expectations, you talk about them with the child, and then you talk about the consequences. This is what is going to happen. We're going to not be able to have that if that happens. And then if they still make that decision, it is in the name of teaching the child accountability. If you still give them whatever they need, then they're going to learn, oh, okay, well, you have the rule, you made the rule, but there's no really, I can't, like, they'll basically learn I can do whatever I want anyway, right? And that is
Mm-hmm.
an error. That is an error that we as parents, we should not do as well, right? So the first thing is get into your child's world, really find the root cause of their behavior, recognize and respect the child for the humanness, the human person they are.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you also talk to them after they know expectations. You talk to them about you know consequences and help them with that, because that's how we learn about boundaries and learn to obey rules and be respectful of rules,
Mm-hmm.
and to show the initiative to listen to these rules based on our heart values and our heart core based on what we've learned. And that's how we teach the scripture as well. When Christ tells us to do something, it's good for us to be obedient to him. And how we teach these rules shouldn't be from a perspective of, because I said so, I'm the parent, so I said so. I mean, it's like, to try to end an argument is like the easiest thing to say, right? But parenting is intentional and it takes time.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you do establish rules in the home, the children should see that it's from a love perspective. That's what the commandments are for. They are there to protect us, to keep us safe, because God loves us.
Mm-hmm.
And the same way we as parents, we need to be establishing rules in our homes as well. It's from a love perspective. It's not because we have power and authority over that person that I need to show that I'm in power. No, it's because we love them, we want to protect them, and at that point in their life, their
Mm-hmm.
phase in their life, they need our protection, they need our support. And so that is the reason why we have those rules, those boundaries, until as they get older, you can adjust accordingly, right? But it should always be from a love, protection perspective, not from a command or I have power over you perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Children will bounce back. They will they will give you a fight if they get it from that perspective.
Hey everyone, I know that we are just getting started into this episode, but I had to cut the podcast episode in half to make 2 episodes because it was just too good to edit anything out. Be on the lookout because part 2, I promise, is worth the wait.